Karol Lopez, Fami Petra Katia Kanjavatusa. That was my introduction for about a month while I was trying to learn Malagasy when I moved across the world to live in a rural community in Madagascar, after I decided that my life in the United States was not for me anymore. So after 15 plus years of living in different cities throughout the States, I packed one suitcase to explore the unknown. And in case anybody's wondering, no, Madagascar is nothing like the movie, except for King Julius, who was inspired by a ring-tailed lemur. I took this picture. And Mort, who I'm guessing was inspired by a gray mouse lemur. I also took this picture. Lemurs are endemic to this magnificent island, but unfortunately, all the lemurs are in danger. However, I'm not here to talk about the marvelous fauna and flora of Madagascar. Instead, I will talk about how traveling can profoundly impact your life, and it can potentially turn you into a change catalyst. But first, I would like to share with you two very important lessons I learned living as a migrant abroad for over 18 years. Be open-minded, to accept our differences and similarities, and to grow from them. To learn something new every day, and to understand that the concept of common sense changes depending on the people, the culture, and the country. And if it differs from yours, it doesn't make you any better than them. Be flexible, to taste different flavors, to live in different conditions, and to see all the colors in the people and the cultures that you meet along the way. This will give you a sense of humility, and it should help you recognize your privileges and use it to uplift others. Once you step outside of your comfort zone, you will understand that the world doesn't revolve around you. Soon, also, you will see beauty in every single small detail and meet amazing people committed to doing good without seeking social media recognition. Now, the real question here is how a woman from Bogota, Colombia, ends up living in a tiny, tiny rural community in the fourth largest island in the world. Well, this journey starts when I first moved to Washington, D.C. for 2 years. I had moved there after I finished my master's to seek a job in public health. However, looking for a job was a very stressful and dreadful experience for months, until I was hired as a medical interpreter, working for Spanish-speaking patients at a local hospital. This particular job showed me some challenges patients may face when they don't speak English, including delayed medical treatment, racism, financial hardship, among many others. On the other hand, it also made me realize my own privileges, learning English, having higher education, having medical insurance and a stable job, just to name a few. But more importantly, this job was my window to realize that I was meant to work with communities and not to be confined to an 8-to-5 corporate job. It was time to make a very radical change. So I sent my application to serve as a volunteer with the Peace Corps, a U.S. agency working in over 60 countries, all around the world, clearly. I first learned about this agency through a friend who had done his service here in Colombia, but at that particular time, I couldn't apply because I didn't have my U.S. citizenship. It was a requirement. Years later, after many, many things I have done through my life, I decided to apply. I was now in my early 30s, and I was almost a decade older than the average volunteer. Age didn't deter me because it's never too late to pursue your dreams. I only had a couple months to prepare for a 2-year trip. So I quit my job, came home to stay with my family, to eat delicious meals, to savor the countryside, and simply to live the simple life. I needed to recharge my soul and my mind to get ready for this unknown journey. And coming home has always given me the boost to face these new challenges. I literally have one bag to go across the world to start a new chapter in my life and no knowledge of what was going to happen. Being flexible and open-minded truly paid off, because my life in Madagascar turned out to be an emotional, physical, and mental roller coaster. On June 29, I don't know why I keep saying June, it's April. On April 29, 2015, I arrived to Kanjavatu, a town that soon became my beloved home away from home. I was assigned to work as a community health advisor. and I initially focused all my efforts on malaria prevention, given the prevalence and the daily nature in the region. Despite working over 18 months at the local schools, providing education about how to prevent malaria, I started to feel overwhelmed, frustrated. I was very stressed. I felt like my actions were not meaningful to the community. I felt like I wasn't doing anything for them. So it was time to make another radical change, to make another radical decision. I shifted my focus of work from malaria to WASH. This was for my own well-being. WASH stands for Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene. Madagascar is among the top poorest countries in the world, and most of its health problems are directly related to the lack of WASH. Along with my counterpart, we created hand washing stations made with local materials that were distributed to all the schools, along with educational posters written in Tanala, the local dialect, that were done by the local teachers. This particular project gave me a very important lesson. If you want to decide a community intervention, you must capitalize on the assets the community has to offer and always, always, always include local stakeholders. It is an important lesson that I carry with me today. Around the same time I embarked on this mission, I also created the Fikambanana to Vavi Mijuru, a standing girls organization. It was composed of 15 girls, ages 12 to 15. It was by far the biggest challenge I had during my time in Madagascar, but also the most hard-feeling work I undertook while I was in Kianjavatu. These girls showed me a different view of life in town. They shed the light to the challenges girls must face, from gender roles and stereotypes to the obstacles menstruation represents when there is no education, infrastructure, and resources to live this normal bodily function with dignity. Taboos and stigmas can be detrimental to the women's health, including girls and adolescents everywhere in the world, including here, Bogota. If you don't think, it does. These taboos are so ingrained in the Malagasy culture that the word to refer to menstruation is fandimbulena, which means the monthly taboo. When I first created the Fikambanana, I didn't talk about the menstrual cycle, because I didn't have confidence on my Malagasy language skills, and I was very afraid that the moms they were not going to be accepting of this fact, that I was going to talk about this very much taboo. Few months before my time was up, I actually attended a training hosted by a local grassroots project whose mission was to promote integrated sex education to rural communities. It was this specific training that gave me the courage to finally talk about menstruation to my girls. But my time was running out, and I didn't have a lot of resources to teach them. So, briefly, I told them about female genitalia and how to make reusable cloth bags. Little I knew that years later, I was going to dedicate my life to promote access to menstrual education as a fundamental right here in Colombia. 39 months later, yes, I added one more year to my service. I was packing my bag again to say goodbye to Madagascar for good and to face the unknown for the 100th time. I didn't know what I was going to do. I only knew I was going to go on a trip with my best friend. We were blessed to visit 6 different countries where we tasted amazing food, we met wonderful people, and visited breathtaking places. That trip confirmed that my life was not meant to be in the United States anymore. So I came home to Colombia again to rest and to put my life in perspective to see what was going to happen next. My life as a volunteer with the Peace Corps truly marked a before and after in my life. It is thanks to the people that I met, the places I visited, and all the experiences that I had that had inspired this new chapter on the journey I'm currently working on. I would like to point out that all these decisions and all these opportunities that I had until that point were only possible to the privileges of having a very supporting family, being bilingual, having higher education, and lastly, living in a society that as a woman allows me to make my own decisions. before I took my next destination, I arrived to my next destination, I had an 8-month layover in Colombia to readjust to live in Bogota. I didn't live here for almost 18 years. And to understand what life was outside Madagascar. I really love Madagascar. It was an important time for me to understand who I had become. I became a resilient and a compassionate woman, among many other characteristics in there, but it would take too long to say them, that wanted to contribute to social development. With all this, my next destination was Panama. I lived there for 6 months working with an international NGO. I learned a lot through this job, but the most important lesson, it was that my decision of staying in the Global South was the right move. But life is not an easy walk in the park. And in 2020, I was in a crossroads, not knowing what to do or where to go, because after months of looking for a job, I had nothing, and there were no prospects whatsoever. I felt like all the doors were closing right in front of my eyes, and I couldn't do anything to change that. It took me a lot of months to understand that it was no rejection. It was the universe redirecting my life for me to stay here in Colombia and to create my own job. It is thanks to all this experience and the knowledge I acquired working with the Fican Banana that I decided to create my own grassroots project, Las Fuertes, dedicated to advocate for the access to menstrual education as a fundamental right for girls in Isla Fuerte, Bolívar. We just celebrated our 3rd anniversary, and I'm very proud to say that we have reached over 210 girls in 5 different communities, girls, adolescents, and women in 5 different communities. And currently we have 23 participants, permanent participants in the island, and we had expanded our program from menstrual education to a curriculum that is more centered in female autonomy and decision-making. During these 3 years, I have witnessed how the participants have blossomed into strong girls who are not afraid of speaking up, girls who are discovering their talents, and girls who are making decisions for their own futures. I would like to showcase 2 participant stories. The now president of Las Fuertes, when she was 12 years old, she was a very shy girl with a very, and let me stress this enough, very difficult temperament. She had a really bad relationship with her mom. At that time, she didn't care about her future. She didn't think about college. That was not in the map. She didn't engage with her critical thinking skills. It's nothing in the map either. She lacked the information how menstruation and fertility are related. And her mom was really afraid that she was going to follow her footsteps as a teenage mom. 3 years later, now the president of Las Fuertes is one of our most consistent participants. She's a leader in the making and is taking the right decisions, so hopefully she can go to college in 2026. That will be the first person in her family to go to college. She now is also a very important stakeholder for Las Fuertes, now that she has taken on responsibilities that have strengthened her sense of belonging to the foundation. Jai was 11 years old when I did the first activities in the island, and has been with Las Fuertes ever since. Around the same time, she started track training, but she didn't have, a lot of interest. She just did it because that was the thing to do, and didn't have a lot of discipline. Due to the prevalence of taboos regarding menstruation, her trainings were often interrupted because her mom thought it was not a good idea she would go to training during her menstruation days. However, thanks to the information she had acquired during our menstrual education sessions, she understood that all those taboos were not true. Now she knows how far she can go with her trainings, and has told her mom that all those beliefs were simply not true. Thanks to the confidence that she has gained during her time with the foundation, she's now looking to become a professional athlete. In May of this year, she participated at her first national athletic competition. This event changed her mind radically. She went back to the island ready to train harder and to keep working to become, again, a professional athlete. Fundación Las Fuertes has been my biggest challenge, yet my biggest reward. I have the freedom to design my own job, to travel doing what I love, and to provide guidance to the girls that decide to be part of the foundation, as well as contributing to making a more equal society for girls, adolescents, and women here in Colombia. Life isn't a straight path with a single destination. Instead, it is a journey full with detours, layovers, and spontaneous plans. How you navigate those is entirely up to you. It is your decision where to go with each redirection, what footprint you want to leave behind during your lifetime, and you can potentially be a change catalyst as long as you're willing to use your privilege to uplift others. Ms. Otra Betsaca.